developers would be quite happy to protect their software for 2 weeks because that's where all their revenue falls in. I know that today's demo for some softwares that I use was yesterday's expensively sold version of it. Of course, there's a new expensively sold version. So information is perishable, and classical information theory doesn't quite capture this, but it's a fact. If I tell you that the train leaves at 5 o'clock, it could be useless or useful, depending on whether 5 o'clock has passed or not passed yet. So I would say that the adversary can be actually made to fail if you delay the success. What you call success is you have a certain model that they should never get it. They should never. But in a different view of the world, where if they get to the destination but they get there too late, they've lost. In that case, there's hope, I think. There's hope, and you can, what would you comment on that?
My comment would be, I agree, information is perishable. So the value of the particular data or protection item that somebody is trying to get access to might degrade over time. And in fact, we count on that both in the anti-tamper and information assurance world. The primary point is, as we go out and talk to customers, they largely are unaware of the fact that most systems are fallible, or all systems are fallible. And so they come to believe when somebody comes in their door and says this is 100% secure, they will tend to believe that. So a lot of the people I talk to are customers. And so simply changing their mindset that, as we say, there is always a better attack, maybe is a different way to say it, as opposed to winning. But there's always a better attack to every countermeasure. Would you agree with that? And so it was getting them to understand that no matter what the countermeasure, there was always something else. And so they would stop believing kind of the snake oil pitch that this will solve all your problems, which was a particular problem at the time. Please ask me a question. It's like my only time on TV. I got 8 more minutes.
It's not a question, but it's maybe a comment, and it's that in this area, what you just described is a very real problem, that we don't agree on what we're talking about. So people say, this is secure, or this is trustworthy. And 5 people listening understand it in 5 different ways. I was attending once the RAID conference on intrusion detection. Apparently, one of the speakers was disagreeing with one of the audience. In fact, during the coffee break, they realized they were not disagreeing, because one of them, intrusion is through the network from outside. The other one, it also includes insider misbehavior. And I don't care which one holds, but we don't have an accepted universe. So I guess what I'm saying is, like for example, we just realized, you and I, that we don't disagree actually. What we were talking about different things. So there is really a need for an ontology in our discipline, in our domain. In a very real sense, we don't know what we're talking about because we don't have an official definition of what this means, of what that means, of what the other thing means. And we are fairly unique in the sciences and in engineering about that. When you say voltage, everybody understands it in the same way. When you say trust, it's overloaded. Trust has to be, is a living, breathing thing, and it's not binary, and it's a measured quantity, and it's subjective. My view of it is different from his view of it, and it's time variable. Your trust that, the money in your bank you can get back was just recently shaken a little bit, right? It changes. Things change. So, are there efforts you're aware of by the community, perhaps Raytheon or others, and I don't know that personally, to come up with sort of a, I wouldn't say a dictionary, but an ontology, really an ontology of this is what this means, this is what that means. Are you aware of that?
within the cyberspace in
Yeah,
particular,
yeah.
we actually are doing a project now to develop something called Cyber Battle Management Language, Cyber BML, and it attempts to do just like that, just that, yeah, specific to this cyber warfare case.
So you agree it's badly needed?
Oh yeah, yeah. My only pause would be, I don't know if it'll be solved, and at some level, I don't know if it matters. I know there is some necessity to it so that we can communicate, but the idea of a unified single dictionary, which will explain these terms, I think is kind of a pipe dream, a little bit. And I'm not sure if it's absolutely necessary. Because I can think of many instances where fields collide with one another, but use different terminology for things, and people have found ways to get along with it.
I would like to add something about the common criteria, the CCTL thing. So I think that's kind of common all over the world, and it actually defines trust in a very good way, as in we have a concept of trusted recovery, trusted distribution.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the efforts are already on their way. Like we had that orange book. That orange book was only meant for DOD, only meant for US. Then we have the common criteria. We have the EALs, evaluation assurance levels.
Yeah.
So that specifically defines as in what level the product is at and what things the product is taking care of.
So what you'll find in industry, not to bash common criteria, orange book, or any of the others, is that those information assurance certificate or grading mechanisms have lost relevance because they simply can't be used as a tool for giving some level of certification, EAL levels, in a timely way. And so even actually the NSA, originator of the Orange Book, has recently started working on a new publishing guideline that are much more general, that actually look a lot more like this. These are the class of vulnerabilities that you would have at a particular level, as opposed to saying submit your tests that you're going to be tested against and how you're going to be tested against them, and then we'll certify those, and then you'll actually perform the test. Business simply can't stand the multi-year process that takes. Yeah. And particularly, a lot of the innovations are coming from folks like yourselves who are starting small companies that are 3 people in size and can't afford the multi-million-dollar effort it takes to get through a common criteria certification. And so, and sometimes some of those are some of the best security products. And so what's happening is the consumer space, be it my particular customer, which is government and defense, or I think even the general commercial industry, is kind of saying, I just can't wait for common criteria anymore. Give me some other way to tell me it's good, and I'll trust that. And so clearly there's some need for something that is quick, usable. I have heard and seen, in particular because Europe is so big into the smart card industry, they have a very interesting certification process. It's a very transparent one. Essentially there's an assessment of peers against each other's products, but it's very much an attack-based assessment. What attacks do you stand up to? And they'll publish a set of attacks that you have to test that you can stand to, and then you come and you get tested to those. It's kind of like an ISO 9000 level certification. I think we're going to have to move more and more to that kind of model, though it's going to be difficult given our intellectual property rights and laws within the U.S. It'll be a challenge.
You mean DCMA?
They expose, what happens is in that European model, they end up exposing a lot of intellectual property information that might be considered sensitive.
Okay, you mentioned kind of exploiting between 2 different fields, kind of like hardware and software, and then the network engineer. I guess the question is, well, can you give me like an example of kind of a program or an application that uses multiple levels of security?
You mean that has integration of the security with?
Yeah.
Multi-level security means a whole nother thing. And,
okay. Integration of all like different what type of hardware securities are there? I know like the Intel chip has certain I really don't know of any.
Mhm.
You probably have much